Hello friends, this is Miss Casey with Fibo Kids Art Academy. Welcome back to another one of our November daily draws. Today we are on day 15. Can you believe it? We're already halfway through. Well, welcome to day 15. Today we are going to be drawing a wreath, a fall November style wreath. So for our wreath today, I have a drawing. We're going to be making some fall details, things that make us think of fall, maybe acorns, leaves, apples, some other plants, pumpkins. And then inside of our wreath, we are going to draw a banner and have a little message. Maybe it says give thanks, maybe it says thankful, happy Thanksgiving, maybe it says fall. That's going to be up to you. I'll leave you guys the creativity to make your own message inside your banner. We don't have too much space, so you don't want to draw too or make too much words or letters, but it's going to be a little bit of fun to have our own little message inside our wreath today. So let's go ahead and get started with our drawing. Now for our drawing, you're going to use any piece of paper. Okay, go ahead and get that out. Now again, if you're using a sketchbook, you can use that, or if you're using regular paper, just go ahead and grab that out. We're not using any watercolors today or any paints. We're just using, well, if you want to use watercolors, you may. You can use any materials, but I will be using markers and chalk pastels and a little bit of metallic marker as well. So when you have your paper out, also make sure to number it. Again, this is day 15. Okay, and then once you have your paper set up, to get started, you want to make sure you are using a pencil. I'll be using a Sharpie though, so you can see my lines better on your screen. Now, in order to draw a wreath, whether or not we see this shape, it is going to be present because we want to add our details along this shape so our wreath looks circular. So we are going to be adding a circle as our guideline. So if you have a circular object, maybe a large paper plate or something really big that fits on your paper, you want to go ahead and trace around it. If you don't have a circular object, that's okay. Just do the very best that you can to make a nice big circle. So right around in the middle of your paper, again, just do the best that you can to draw a nice big circle. And we are just using this as a guideline. So it's okay if it's not super perfect. We will be erasing it. Okay, now once you have that circle on your paper, next what we're going to do is draw our details around our circle. Now, the details don't have to be exactly like mine. You can draw different things that make you think of fall. I'm going to, at the very bottom, draw a pumpkin because pumpkins are really important to me when it comes to November and fall. So right in the middle at the bottom, I'm going to add a nice big pumpkin. So for my pumpkin, I'm going to draw two curved lines, one for the left and one for the right. I'm going to connect them at the bottom. And then at the top, I'm going to draw a curved line like a letter U, and then connect a stem for the top of that pumpkin. And then on the left and right, I'm going to add a letter C that curves out for the pumpkin on the left and right, and then another letter C for the outsides that curve out, and then two curved lines for the back side of that pumpkin. Now once I have my pumpkin, I'm going to add a couple details that are kind of hiding behind the pumpkin. So on the right side, I'm going to add a nice fall leaf. I'm going to draw two pointed lines, curve it up to a big point, and then point them off again to the right and connect. So it's like a fall leaf. You can add details inside. Okay, now once you have that fall leaf, on the left side, if you'd like to add another kind of leaf, you can. I'm going to add this little small leaf with little curved leaves on the edges. Okay, so there I have the bottom of my wreath, a nice big pumpkin and a couple leaves on the edges. Now I'm going to go ahead and wrap around that circle, following the guideline, that circular shape, to add the rest of my details. So I'm going to start going left and move clockwise. So now that I have that leaf coming from the back of my pumpkin, I'm going to go ahead and add a small circle next to it. Add a couple of curved lines. Maybe it's a small pumpkin, maybe it's like a little nut, something and then add a couple of leaves on the outer edges. Then I'm going to add curved line going the opposite way. It's nice to add a little bit of variety, even though it may not follow the curve of the circle. As long as it is on top of that circle and it's going around, you can do different directions for your object. So I'm going to add a little detail leaf, some circles at the end of its stems. Okay, once I have that detail, I'm going to come up and I'm going to add a nice big apple. Apples are yummy to pick. They have a lot of apple vineyards. You can go with family and pick your apples to make apple cider, apple pie, yummy, yummy things with apples. It's a lot of fun. So I'm going to add a little stem here, and then I'm going to also add a leaf connected to my apple. And then on the outside, I'm going to add a couple of curved lines for some highlights that I'm going to be adding when I color it in. So there's my apple on the left. Now I'm going to add in a nice big leaf, and I'm going to curve that, very similar to the leaf I have here, and add some points on the left side, and then a nice big point in the top middle, and then another few points on the right, and connect it back down. And then I'm going to add a curved line in the middle, and add a few vein lines as well. Okay, now that I have that leaf, I'm going to add some acorns right in the top. Now I want to try to center it similar to my pumpkins. So I'm going to add a curved line for the top of one acorn and a curved line kind of overlapping behind the first acorn. Then I'm going to draw two curved lines coming down for the bottom. This one curving in behind the first acorn. And then I'm going to add my stems. Now that I have my acorns, I'm going to add a couple of curved lines at the top for the detail. It has this like crisscross pattern. Now I'm going to go in the opposite direction for that pattern. Okay, so now I have my acorns. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of leaves. Now, rather than looking like this one with points, they're a little bit more curvy. Okay, then I'm going to come down and I'm going to add a nice big leaf with some pointy leaves on the end. And then in between, I'm going to add a couple of stems and draw a couple of little curved or rounded details. Okay, once I have that leaf, then I'm going to add another little leaf here. Maybe 3 little leaves. Okay, then I'm going to add another 3 pointed leaf there, similar to this one, some rounded edges. Okay, and then I'm going to add maybe like a little flower and a couple of leaves connected. So those are going to be my details around, but again, you don't have to add the same ones. If you want yours to look a little different, you can go ahead and make yours a little different. All of that will be up to you. And then once you are done adding those details around that circle for the wreath is done. Next, what we are going to do is add that banner that goes in the middle. If you don't want to add a banner, you don't have to. You can just leave it the circle for the wreath, or you can even write your message without a banner. So you don't have to add a banner, but you also don't have to add a little word or message in the middle. But if you do want to add a banner, you want to make sure it's nice and centered right in the middle. You want to give it a good amount of space for the top and bottom. So I'm going to come in the middle and draw a wavy line at the top. And then a little bit of space at the bottom, I'm going to add another wavy line that follows the same direction. And on the left side, I'm going to curve that to connect from the top and bottom. And then on the right side, I'm going to curve it to connect again from the top to the bottom. So you can leave your banner just like this if you want, but you can also add the little ends at the bottom or even the top of your banner. Wherever you have more space, on the top or bottom corner, you can go ahead and just add an extra curved line that comes underneath or again above. Maybe this one comes underneath as well. And then once you have those curved lines, you can go ahead and curve it back around, kind of like a letter S, and bring it up to the left or right side of your banner. Now on that first curve, on that outer edge, you're just going to draw a line that comes up to touch the bottom of your banner. Okay, and then for the outer sides, you're going to come to the side of your banner and just draw like 2 letter V's or even a letter W that connects to the bottom of that banner. That can be the ends, and again, you can do this up at the top instead. But once you have that, then, and you should still be using your pencil, right inside, to follow the curve that we have for our banner, you want your words to follow these curves. So you're just going to draw another curve right inside, and your words are going to follow that curve. So that way your words are not straight, because with the curved banner, you don't want straight words. That's not going to fit, that's not going to match. It's going to make it look a little flat. So we want to make sure that our words match the curves of our banner. So you can add in that curved line. That's just going to be a guideline. You don't have to use that for your actual words, but that's just going to help you make sure that your words line up along the curves. So once you've added in that curve, you can write any message, and you can do it in any lettering. It can be cursive, regular writing, bubble letters, block letters. That's going to be totally up to you. I'm going to be doing some cursive. So along this curved line that I have for my words, I'm going to go ahead and add in my G. And I'm going to be writing in the word give thanks. But again, you can write any word or phrase or words that you want. So I'm going to write my I, and then my V and my E for the give. And again, it's following that curve. So now for my T, I'm going to make sure it follows as well. So it's going to be a little bit lower. And then my H, my A, my N, my K, and my S. And again, it follows that curve. Okay? So now that I've written in my word, next, what you can do is take your eraser and erase any lines you don't want. So that is going to be that circle that you used for your wreath, that guideline, and then the guideline that you used for your word. However, if you want, you can use that circle to help you draw even more details. So maybe you want to add some, maybe like wire that's coming along. Maybe it's like twig that's attached to your wreath. So you can add a couple of curved lines attached to your circle, and you can use that circle as like a little bit of a twig or branch that you're using for your wreath. So if you've seen wreaths, if you make them on your own or if you buy them, you'll know they're usually made with like some twigs, wood, material, so you can act as if that circle is part of that twig or the wood. Of course, you don't want that circle going through your object, so you can still erase inside your objects, but any other details as your wreath is connecting, if you want to make that circle turn into like some curved lines, some twig material, you can go ahead and do that. And then same thing for your word. If you want to keep that line there, you can turn it into like a decorative element underneath that really highlights your word. So maybe you curve it at the bottom, make it flow with the word that you wrote. All right, so whatever it is you decide, if you need to erase any lines, make sure you go inside of those objects, erase the part of the circle that you don't want inside, okay? And then you can go ahead and outline. So I'm just going to highlight in case it's a little hard to see. I'm going to highlight those lines from the circle that you don't want inside of your objects. So as you can see, I'm not highlighting the part of the circle that is outside of my objects because I'm using that as part of my wreath. But if it goes inside your objects at all, you can erase it. Okay, so that will be up to you. Now, once you're done erasing and doing your drawing, next what you can do is take a Sharpie and outline. However, if you would instead prefer to outline with a colored marker, you can do that instead. So I outlined my objects with Sharpie and my banner, but I didn't outline my word and I didn't outline my circle. Okay, so I'm going to do that again, and since I have all of these extra lines and highlighted areas, I actually went ahead and redrew it in pencil. It might be a little hard to see, so I'm going to go ahead and outline with you guys. Okay, so taking my Sharpie, I'm going to outline these objects that I have going around my wreath. But again, you don't have to outline the actual circle. You just outline those objects that you added around your wreath. Now, if you need a little bit more time to outline, you can feel free to pause and then continue on when you're ready. I'm going to be finishing up my outlining soon. If you're in the same pace as me, you can just keep following along with me. Or if you're faster than me, then you can go ahead and skip ahead a little bit. If you want to add these little swirly lines on the side of your pumpkin stem, you can. So again, I'm just going around those objects I had on my wreath and I'm outlining them. But the circle I used for my wreath, I'm not outlining. Acorn. Okay, now I'm also going to be outlining the banner. Don't forget the back side of the banner. But I don't want to outline my word. So I have all the objects and details that I want outlined now. I'm going to go ahead and put my Sharpie away. But if you were using regular markers to outline, you can go ahead and continue on. I'm going to go ahead and bring out my markers now and finish up some outlining with my markers. Now, for that circle that I have, the little twig wood material, I'm actually going to take a brown and outline with that to fill in those areas. So I'm going to outline my circle around the objects. I don't want to go through the objects. If it's just simple lines, you can go through them, but if they're solid objects, you don't want to go through it. Okay, now once you have your circle outlined, you can go in and add these swirly lines, twig, little swirls. That's up to you, however you want that to look, wherever you have room and space. Okay, and that can just make it look a little bit more fun and decorative. That will be up to you. And you can also take your marker to outline your word. But if you want to use different markers, maybe you have metallic markers. I have some metallic markers. I'm going to take my brown, or I'll do my gold. I think it's this one here. I'm going to take my gold metallic marker, and I'm going to outline my word. Now this is like a brush pen, so I'm going to actually use it to help me make a nice text calligraphy. Now a tip to do that, and if you guys were a part of my daily draw from before, I think it was day 1, we learned a tip that when we are doing a letter like script or cursive, and you're using a pen or a brush to fill it in, when you go up, you want to think thin lines, and then when you come down, you want to make thick lines. So up is thin and down is thick. Sometimes it can be a little hard. You can always go into those thicker lines, or into those thick lines and make them thicker. Okay. Once you have your word, if you would like to use that line to decorate the bottom, you can go ahead and do it. And then once you have that, if you're done outlining, then you can take your marker and fill in. I forgot this little detail line here. But then you can take your markers and fill in, or whatever material you're deciding to use. I'm going to be using my markers. And I'm going to use the color scheme that we've been using for our daily draw. So I'm going to use warm colors, browns, little pop of green. So I'm going to take my orange and I'm going to fill in my pumpkin first. Now I'm just going to fill everything in solid, but if you'd like to add some shading, go for it, have fun, use whatever materials and color it however you want. Okay, now I'm going to use a green, fill in the stem. I'm going to take this lighter green here. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and take a yellow to fill in this leaf on the side. Now when you fill in with markers, if you are using markers like me, you really want to make sure that you outline first and then you fill in either using the wide or thick part of your marker if you have an angle, or just however you can use that thicker part, and then make sure that you're going nicely, carefully, and neatly. Okay, so now I'm going to take a darker green, color in these leaves I have here. Take a red, and again, I'm just going to be using my warm fall colors. Red, orange, yellow, browns, golds, greens. Okay, so have fun with it if you are doing different colors, or if you're following along with our color scheme. Maybe you added different objects. All of that is completely up to you. Okay. Take yellow, fill in this little object here. Take my lighter green this time, fill in the leaves of this plant. Okay, and then I'm going to take some red, fill in the little small details. And then for these leaves over here, I'm going to actually take a brown, fill in one of my leaves. Outline first, fill it in. Then I'm going to switch to an orange again. You kind of want to add variety, flip between different colors. A wreath sometimes might have a focal point. For me, I feel like it's the center with a banner, or maybe it's the pumpkin, since that's like the biggest thing. It's at the bottom, it has the most weight. But a lot of the time wreaths are pretty equal and balanced. They have about the same size of things, but you can change it up, make it look different by changing colors, you know, having pops of color stand out. So you can just have fun with that, but I would say keeping it pretty similar to each other will make it all look nice and nicely work well together, nicely unified, balanced. Alrighty. Forgot to fill in the stems. Okay, for this leaf, I'm going to use a darker green. This leaf, I'm going to use a yellow. Now, if you have multiple shades of a color, maybe you have a yellow-orange, maybe you have a darker yellow, darker orange, lighter orange, different versions of the same colors, you can definitely use that. Like I have my light green and my dark green. So I want to use that even though they're different colors, they're still part of the same, they're just different shades of the same color. Now for my apple, I of course want to use my red. And I did add a few details in the drawing steps on one side of my apple, so I'm going to leave those little details white and fill in the rest. And after you're done filling it in, if you don't really like that detail, you want to just color it completely in, you can. But I think I like the little spots. And then you can take a green if you added a leaf, take a brown if you added a stem. Then I have these other leaves here. Okay, I'm going to use a yellow for those little details. Then an orange for this detail. Little mini pumpkin or gourd of some kind. And then I'm going to add in my leaves. Alright, and so if you have any other details, more details, less details, go ahead and finish up. Everyone's going to have something a little bit different. So I used marker for all the outer details of my banner. If you want to continue with marker and fill in the, if you want to continue with your markers and fill in the banner, you can go ahead and do that. But I'm actually going to be using some chalk pastel for the banner. So I'm going to scoot my markers to the side, take out my chalk pastels. I'm going to open those up. And I'm just going to fill in the banner. Now, if you want to do anything to the outer edges, you can. But just inside my wreath here, I'm actually going to take a brown. And since I've already outlined my word, I don't have to worry about the chalk pastel covering it. It's already good to go. But I'm just going to take the edge or the tip of my chalk pastel. I'm going to outline the edges, just along the edges. Okay, and now that I have that, I want to take the corner, again, just get the inner edges, or sorry, the outer edges. And once I have that, I'm going to put that chalk pastel away, take one finger and just press that chalk into those edges where I outlined. Take one finger, press that in. And then once you're done pressing in that chalk, you can just very lightly with your finger blend it in toward the middle. You can choose to fill it completely in, just nice and lightly, or you can just leave the middle completely white and just add a little bit of some color around the edges. That will be up to you. Kind of gives it this nice little smoky vignette effect. And then you can do the same thing for the outer ribbons. And then just tap off any extra dust. And that is it for our wreath today. So wonderful job, everyone. Again, this was day 15 and we drew a wreath. So I hope you guys had a lot of fun with this daily draw, and I can't wait to see what you guys created. Please make sure to share your artwork with us. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll be seeing you tomorrow for another daily draw. My name is Miss Casey, and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.